evening.
Good evening.
Good evening.
My name is Scott Bennett. I'm the commander of the American Legion Post Unit 157 here in Madison. All right, let me start. Whoa. Sounds like the last ship I was on. Anyway, my name is Scott Bennett. I'm the commander of American Legion Post 157, and I welcome everyone here tonight for this evening's Candidates Forum. The group sponsoring tonight's educational forum are the Legion Family, a nonpartisan organization by law set by Congress that focuses on community education through an Americanism program, also the original Madison Matters that focuses on transparency and efficient, effective government, and the Mad Rap Recorder, whose mission is also education. Tonight's event is being videotaped, you see the camera right there, so that others in our community may view it if they aren't able to be present. And since we're full, they probably won't be able to be present. We'll be on the Mad Rap website and Facebook page in the near future. This evening event is not a debate. It's a forum where candidates have the opportunity to respond to questions from you, the voters, on their individual positions on issues of importance in Madison. We are looking forward to an informative, respectful, and cordial evening. Emphasis on the cordial part. All right, I would like to now introduce Ellie Montgomery, one of our auxiliary members, who will now introduce our moderator. Again, thank you all for coming, and I'm glad to see this turnout. Have a good evening.
Before I get started, the woman that you see right there, Sherry in the hat, she is the timekeeper. Sherry? Okay.
Sorry.
She's the timekeeper. She will give you a signal. Would you tell them the signal now?
All right, at the short 10 seconds towards the end of your time, I'm going to do this, which means wrap it up, and yes, I'm going to go like that when your time is up. Your thumb or either one, but we'll do this. There will be no noises from the public.
It's my pleasure to introduce Deb Mills, who was our moderator and has been our moderator for the last 4 or 5 forums that we've had. She doesn't live in Madison, and she's not familiar with the candidates. So, and she's afraid of making a mistake with the order of things, and she's very nervous about that. So please be nice to her, okay? So I'm going to turn this over to Deb Mills. Thank you.
Thank you, Ellie. And just remember, I'm blonde, and sometimes I can really tell I'm really blonde. And if you all can't hear me or you don't understand the question, please stop me and say, please repeat. I want to make sure you hear everything you're supposed to.
You will have to speak up, man.
You got to stay close to that mic.
Okay. Is that better?
Yeah.
Oh dear, okay. This is a forum sponsored by the Madison American Legion family, the original Madison Matters, and the Mad Rap Recorder for the candidates for the Board of Supervisors and the School Board. Please hold all applause until the debate is finished. There are audience members who favor one person or another, and if we applaud as they speak, we will have less time for questions to be answered. At the end, we will all give our candidates a rousing round of applause. The first candidate to appear are those running for the for the Board of Supervisors. They will have 2 minutes each for their opening statement, 2 minutes each for their closing statement, and 1 minute to respond to each question from the audience. Index cards are available for you to write questions to the candidates. Please word your question in a general way that all candidates can respond to them. Questions directed at only one candidate will not be asked. The screeners can assist you with wording or writing questions if needed. The screeners will group questions into categories of a similar nature and will give me a representative question to ask. The purpose of this is to sort out duplicate questions, assure topics of greatest interest are asked with the time available, and put personal questions aside. Also, questions that are inappropriate for that branch of government involved in each session will be set aside. All questions should be respectful. Candidates are seated in alphabetical order and are drawn a number to determine their order for opening statements. The order is reversed for the closing statements. After the opening statements, the order of answers will progress from the person following the first opening speaker down the line. If you need assistance, our screeners are Robin and Bruce Brown and Chuck Jackson. The timekeeper is Sherry Brockman. Are there any questions about the format this evening? That's good. We're going to get started with opening statements. The candidate drawing the lowest card is for the Board of Supervisors, Dustin Dawson. And the order will be for the Board of Supervisors, Dustin Dawson, number 1. Number 2 is Clay Jackson. Number 3 is Steve Grayson. And number 4 is Jim Jewett. Okay, Dustin Dawson, if you will do your opening statement.
My name is Dustin Dawson. I'm running for Board of Supervisors. Just to give you an idea of where this came from, I was sitting there in November just frustrated kind of about the direction that our country was headed, and I just said, how do I make a difference? And so some time went by, and we were actually standing in our bedroom, and I looked at my wife and I said, I think I'm going to run for Board of Supervisors. And she kind of stared at me like I didn't belong in our bedroom. And she said, who are you? What have you done with my husband? I look at my children, and I love this area. I love seeing the mountains. I love seeing that when we drive down the street, everybody waves. I love seeing that the sheriff's department waves, things like that. But I'm the kind of guy that's just a common sense guy. I'm not super book smart. I'm an electrician by trade. I have worked for government for about 10 years, but just recently I've gone out on my own in business to do electrical work. It was the direction I wanted to go. I think that we can make things like our capital improvement projects last and count. Looking down the road at 20 years and saying, you know what, let's make the money count on this and follow it closely. We can use staff to save money. I had the opportunity when I was working for the town of Warrenton to be a project coordinator. On a $4.2 million project, we came in $400,000 under budget. But that's all credit due to staff too, because they stepped up and said, we'll work on it, we'll help. But it was also due to the fact that people were cross-trained. So I think we can apply that here and start looking down towards the future of what we're going to do.
Clay Jackson.
Yes, ma'am. I'll try this. Doesn't work well for me. Everybody hear me? Good. My name is Clay Jackson. I'm currently the chairman of the Board of Supervisors. I'm seeking my third term. Everybody hear me in the back? No. Yeah, you're right there. I am seeking my third term. I'm a cattle farmer here in Madison. And that's just, I'm here because I want to be in Madison. I really want to tell you all the generic political promises and just go on and on, diversifying tax base. Everybody up here agrees on that. I'd rather not go down that path. I'm supposed to tell you that government's proactive. It's not. It's exceedingly reactive. I look at that as a good thing. It means that it's citizen-driven. I I watch other localities where it's all administratively driven and they're doing big things and fancy on lots of counts. This is a place where you come to us, talk to the board of supervisors, heck, we'll hopefully come up with some type of solution. We are constantly in Madison in a state of catch-up. It seems like we postpone. And what it has done is kind of caught us in a bad way. It's expensive to have to catch up constantly. We have been busy though. We have a new internet initiative with a private partner, bringing fiber to people's homes. Hopefully that will be a big step in the right direction. We've all seen what schools had to go through. We know what businesses need when it pertains to broadband. We have new businesses, big and small, coming to Madison currently. We approved one garage last week. We're going to do another one here in a couple weeks, or next week. There's a whole new business, big business, coming to the Lakes Factory. Things that can help the community. We have a better emergency service system, and mostly a radio system. Right now, we're covered about 65% of Madison County is covered by E911. Yes? I'm sorry. Apologize, ma'am.
Steve Grayson.
Good afternoon. First of all, I want to thank the American Legion and the sponsors of this event. I want to thank each of you for being here to hear what each of these gentlemen have to say.
Sorry, can't hear you.
Okay, how about now? Okay. Again, I'm Steve Grayson. I've lived in Madison. I was born and raised in Madison County. Most of my adult life, I've worked in Madison County. In some capacity or other, I've served Madison County for the last 48 years. I worked 12 and a half years with the Madison County Sheriff's Office. I volunteered 18 years with the local fire department and 48 years with the Volunteer Rescue Squad. I recently retired after 31 and a half years from Atlantic Union Bank. I love Madison County as each of you here do. I'm running for this board so that we can work together to keep Madison County beautiful like it is. Obviously, there are many things that we can do to promote business, to bring in businesses, and we'll talk about more of those, I'm sure, later on. But running for the board's been a desire of mine for some time. I didn't feel that I had the time to devote to it. When I was working, when I retired in 2019, when the election came around, it seemed to be the right opportunity. A little bit about my family. I've been married to my wonderful wife, my best friend, Betty, for 42 years. I've got a daughter, Erin, that's 36, and two grandkids that are 16 and 6, and like most people here, if I'd known how much fun grandkids were, I would have them first. So, thank you, and again, appreciate you being here.
Jim Jewett.
Actually, bring it up beside the table. Where? Beside the table.
You can't hear it. It's blowing my ear out.
Right.
Better?
Further out.
And you got a cord issue.
I know.
All right, that's what, whatever.
Well, now I just unplugged it. This is my troubleshooting.
Part of the joint. Right.
All right.
How's that?
Good.
All right, clock started. Hi, I'm Jim Jewett, and I'm running for the Board of Supervisors because I care about the country, the county, and its people. And our country's in trouble right now. And I believe that the battle for this country is going to be fought, won or lost in the long term at the local level. It's about what we teach or don't teach in our school system. It's about how we run our local government. not just for our immediate benefit, but to build a culture for our children of what good government is supposed to be: responsible, transparent, and efficient. Now, I've lived in Madison all my life. I farm with my wife Abby and 2 sons. I'm also a lecturer of computer information systems at James Madison University. We've got some big issues that I would like to focus on. Number one is our budget. Our budget, we need to keep our spending under control in this time. The second thing is economic development. And there's really 4 cornerstones to that. One is broadband internet. The other one is better management of our water and sewer infrastructure. 3, we have to more aggressively recruit, cultivate businesses that we currently have in the county and attract businesses that will fit into the character of the county. And we need a good school system. And then finally, last but not least, I'm a big supporter of the Second Amendment. I laud the Board of Supervisors, what they've done to support that in the county. Thank you.
We're ready for the first question, and we'll start with Clay Jackson. What are your main concerns about the budget?
How not to raise taxes. It's pretty clear. Like I said in my opening, having to catch up is expensive. Madison County budgeting conservatively for multiple years, going back 40 years, really has paid off. It's allowed us to be able to do some things like our renovation of our admin that is a 40-year project, the ability to redo one of the schools under budget. We need that diversified base. We're looking at new revenue streams on a regular basis. COVID actually helped Madison in a lot of ways. Federal and state money coming to Madison allowed us to knock off a bunch of things on our list without having to go to the taxpayer. It will be compounded, but the intent constantly is not to have to raise taxes.
Steve Grayson.
Again, my concerns with the budget is very clear. I mean, the budget's going to continue to increase as more services occur. Unfortunately, there's a lot of state mandates, and I know everybody says that, but there are a lot of things that are rammed down the county's throat, and the county has to find a way to fund it. There are ways, there are things that we can look at. We need to look at every item line by line by line and make sure that the dollars spent are being spent wisely for Madison County. Is there a lot of fat in the budget? I don't know until I get involved in it, but I promise you that I will get involved in it, and we'll look at every item and make sure that every item is spent wisely.
Steve Grayson. Oh. Thank you. The blonde showing, sorry, but Jim Jewett. Yes, sir.
All right, I want to take a different perspective on the budget. There was a 3% real estate tax increase this year to cover the budget. That equated to $525,000. Now, here's a couple of ways of looking at the equivalent funding. It would take about 8 solar energy farms that we are looking at to cover that amount. It would take probably $30 million in additional taxable local spending to replace that with sales tax. My point is that we cannot grow our way out of our current budget trajectory. And we need to take a hard look at what we're doing and how we are spending. Now, we had a $45.7 million county budget, and that $525,000 represents about 1.1% of that total budget. I think it would be hard to convince me that we couldn't find 1.1% out of that $45.7 million budget.
Dustin Dawson.
Once again, I think taxes are the tax increases on the residents. You're putting a burden on residents to choose between, do I do this or pay my taxes? And you know, I mean, I get it. Most of us have the money to pay our taxes, but there are individuals that have to choose between medicine and taxes. There are individuals that have to choose between other things. Do I know exactly how to fix it? I don't know exactly how to fix it. But I do know we can dive into it, and we've got to be able to find somewhere, somehow, that we can save at least 1%, just to start, and then we can evaluate and move on from there.
Okay, question number 2. Would you consider reducing expenditures to have a balanced budget? If so, what areas would you cut? And we'll start with Steve Grayson.
Certainly you want to try to balance the budget whenever possible. Again, having not been directly involved in the budget process, I can't tell you what item there's, for lack of a better word, fed in. I can tell you that public safety is a big item that you've got. The schools are a big item that you've got. They're two things that are tough to cut. Obviously, everybody wants a good education for the kids. You start cutting programs, you start cutting projects there. Public safety, when you dial 911, you want somebody to show up. So they're the two biggest items. There's a couple other large items, but again, as I said before, I'm sure there are some items there. There's always going to be new requests, and you just got to evaluate each of them as they come on a one-on-one basis. What's best for the county? What's best for the taxpayers?
Jim Jewett.
Looking through the budget as deeply as I have been able to delve into it at this point, there are a couple of things that raise flags to me. Being an IT guy, I've seen some of the expenses, the proposed expenses on software and network infrastructure, and I really have to question them more closely. They may be justified, but that's something that caught my eye. Another thing that I'm really struggling with is some of the outlying pay increases that have been given to some of the folks in the county government. Now, I don't want to be critical of anyone or any position, but I think we need to be very judicious when we give outlying raises to some of these folks in our government. And then again, I mean, it's amazing in the budget process, and I've done this in public, private, whatever. If you just start really asking questions, if decision makers like the board starts to ask questions when people are asking for money, that in itself puts a downward pressure on budget requests. If you're simply just letting things happen and requests go through, that puts an upward pressure on budget pressure.
Dustin Dawson.
I would focus on what I really know, and that would be, facilities, things like that, maintenance, capital improvements. You really can save a lot of money and give staff some opportunity in the same sense, because you give them the opportunity to get experience, and you're not necessarily using them, but you're giving them that experience to build their resume, whether it's for here or somewhere else, and then they have the opportunity for overtime or whatever. Overtime is a lot less in some senses, not just throw overtime at everything, but when you're looking at a capital improvements project where you can give somebody overtime compared to pay a contractor, you can save money. So that would be my focus.
Question number 3.
No sweat. It's a tough position. No, not a bit. Hang in there, buddy. Yeah, hang in. It'll be your turn. We go through the budget line by line. We spend countless hours for months. January through April, every Thursday, we do budget for 4 hours at a minimal, most of those Thursdays. Anybody in here that would like to give suggestions on where to cut that is constructive, please come forward. We'll take it. We're also trying to liquidate a fairly used school in Criglersville. We'd like that money as well. There's not a whole lot of fat in the budget. I wish I could sit here as a conservative and say, there's tons of stuff to cut. Core functions of local government, education, public safety. Those two are what take the majority of the funding. There isn't a whole lot of places. We've asked multiple times. It's from citizens. If you have ideas, please come and talk to us.
Question number 3. Schools make up the majority of the county's budget. How would you try to ensure that the schools spend their money appropriately? Jim Jewett.
Well, thank you. And again, going over the budget, school spending out of the total budget really comes out to about 47%. And the county contributes about 45% of local funds to the school budget. Now, it takes money to run a school. And I think that we can continue to have and improve the quality of our schools without having to necessarily spend more money, as long as we spend judiciously. Studies have shown from the Department of Education that as long as you are spending per student within a relevant range, an average range, which Madison at $12,800 per student is doing, there is little correlation between an increase in spending and an increase in student achievement. Now, if you vary out 10 percentage points either way, you start to get a change in the standard deviation of student achievement with regard to spending. But we can have schools just like we can do everything else in this county. But it takes, as Mr. Jackson said, it takes a lot of work to keep spending low and also to keep spending well.
Dustin Dawson.
This is one of the areas that I look at and say, we don't want to cheapen it. I don't want to raise it either. So my point is, you look at it and you say, okay, are we getting the best bang for our buck? Where can we improve? I don't think you're going to look at it and say, well, we can cut 10%. Teachers aren't raking in 6 figures a year. Most of them live in the county and they're trying to make a living. They're probably barely staying afloat doing so. So I don't have the perfect answer. Could we look at the facilities and maybe pull a grant in here or there to try to do some energy efficiency and try to help with the units and the capital improvements on the systems? Maybe not.
Clay Jackson.
This is in 8 years, going on 8 years, this is the first time the school has come to us with a request during budget season less than they did the previous year. First time. Never thought I'd ever be able to say that. Madison's fortunate. We have a good superintendent right now. A really, really good lady. If you haven't met her, I encourage you to. She is looking at grants. She has drew in a grant, I think, of just at $600K. She is doing a lot of good things. She is evaluating programs. She has cut programs. She has cut staff. We work hand in hand with the school system when it pertains to budget time. We're at their workshops. They come talk to us. That little bit of relationship goes a long way and makes the schools be something the community can be proud of. Can they improve? Absolutely. And hopefully they will continue. Cutting them is not really the right way to look at it. It's more try to find where you can get the most bang for your buck.
Steve Grayson.
I agree. Of all the areas to cut, the education system is not the one to cut. We've done a good job as a county. We've spent a lot of money. We've improved the 3 schools, Waverly, the high school, the primary school. We shouldn't have to spend any more money on that. We've got the debt service on those facilities where it's a manageable level. I happen to serve on the Industrial Development Authority, so I've had the opportunity to look at that note, and we voted for the county to spend it. It's a reasonable rate. It's a fixed rate. Obviously, I'll put Madison County educators up against anybody in the Commonwealth. Not because they're the highest paid, but because of their desire and their willingness to serve kids in this county. Cutting the schools is not the area to cut.
The next question. How would you get more tax revenue for Madison County without burdening the homeowners? Dustin Dawson.
Well, I think you start with economic development, and you try to get businesses in here. I'm sure they've been trying to get businesses in here, but we continue to work at that. Get the right businesses in here that complement Madison. I don't want to be Charlottesville. I don't want to be Culpeper. I want to be Madison. So you get the right businesses here, and then you work on the tourist aspect of things to bring people in that are going to spend their money and basically leave. And then that money will help offset the tax increases that they would maybe find necessary to on the property taxes. Excuse me.
Clay Jackson.
It has to be business. It has to be. We are seeing small businesses just pop out of everywhere. We're seeing small businesses get bigger. That's great for the community. The other side of it is grants. We are actively looking for grants. Ms. Gentry, who comes to the PRA meeting, Parks and Rec meetings on a regular basis, pushes us saying, we've got to apply, we got to apply, we got to apply. We actually think that we found somebody to help them write grants. That will bring down some of that operating cost. Madison has to pick the things that they like. The thing that I see in Madison on a regular basis, and it's natural for all of us, is we all want business here. But if it's near us, we don't want it. It's disappointing. It's natural, it's going to be a surprise, but when everybody says, we want to be doing this, we need these people, we need this revenue, we've got to be looking around and figuring out. Route 29 corridor study that Kevin McGee put together with Cardi and myself and a handful of people. Kevin McGee predominantly. That's where business is going to end up going. Dustin left off the one place we absolutely do not want to be like. That's Greene County. Absolutely don't want to be like them. Thank you.
Steve Grayson.
Certainly the lifeblood of Madison is small businesses. Having been involved in the chamber for many years, there's over 275 small businesses that are members of the Madison Chamber. The two biggest things that we can do to boost Madison without putting the burden on the homeowner is encourage those small businesses. County has, through the Chamber of Commerce, has had a couple small businesses that have applied for grants to do expansion, and with those grants, they're able to hire more people, and the county gives certain short-term tax deferment, but they more than make it up in the long run on the added real estate taxes and all that sort of thing. You've got to continue to promote that. Without the lack of widespread water and sewer, we're not going to attract the big businesses. I'm not sure that we want the big business. The other thing we got to rely on, and I'll wrap it up real quick, is tourist dollars. Madison County normally is either first or second in tourist dollars, in excess of $30 million.
The next question. Should Madison...
I actually did talk, but you just... Okay, this brings up some really good points, and we've got a paradox here. 3/4 of our local tax revenue is from property and personal property tax. It's difficult to replace that. However, we need to grow. We do need to cultivate tourism. We do need to attract additional business. Of course, now we've got constraints on ourselves. We don't want business to come in here that's going to basically ruin the county. And that does limit our choices, but that's fine. I don't want us to be Greene or Culpeper, certainly not Albemarle. I'm leaving the state if we do. And I will tell you that smart growth is going to be better for the long-term well-being of this county, even if it's going to be a little bit slower. Because I will tell you that it's common sense and experience. When you grow to a large number like some of these other counties, Nova and Albemarle County, it's self-defeating. You end up with a lot lower quality of life and a lot higher taxes.
Should Madison County have a business license? We'll start with Clay Jackson.
I don't know if this works or not. It's come up multiple times. Madison doesn't have a business license. We have a case going through that the planning commission has recommended a small business. The guy had been operating for several years. He asked us, do we have a business license? I said, no. We didn't know that he needed a special use permit to do his business in that zone. Business licenses that have been talked about in Madison are very nominal, like $5, $10. I don't like the government knowing about every little business. That's not the culture of it. It shouldn't be that way. So I'm always inclined to say, no, we don't need a business license. We don't need an inventory on businesses. Let the free market sort that out. It has come up recently. It's something that we could consider. I go both ways. There's business owners that like it. There's other business owners that don't.
Steve Grayson.
Again, being involved in the chamber, this subject has came up numerous times. I'm not in favor of a business tax. As I said before, our lifeblood is small businesses. When you start putting another tax, whether it's $20 or $25 or $100, that's just another burden to those. We're already taxing businesses through inventory, merchants capital, inventory tax, and that sort of thing. And quite honestly, the studies that I've looked at on it, the revenue that it brings in is probably not worth the offset of the bookkeeping and enforcement of it that it entails. So I'm not in favor of business tax.
Jim Jewett.
Short answer, no. And again, we don't want to do anything to discourage business development. And if you were going to raise a significant amount of tax from a business license, you would have to charge a significant fee. If you're charging a nominal fee, like Mr. Grayson said, it's going to it'd be more than eaten up in the county administrative costs. So the answer is no, I don't support a business license tax.
Dustin Dawson.
No, I don't support a small business or a business license tax. Just like Mr. Jewett just said, administration costs. Do we have the staff to even cover taking care of that? So, no, I don't support it.
Do you want business development in Madison? Explain and be specific. Steve Grayson. Do you want business development in Madison? Explain and be specific.
Again, you've got to have businesses, you've got to have small businesses that come in. Business development involves the zoning and everything else associated with that. I think that we have a process in place that supports small businesses, and we need to continue to encourage small businesses. Again, when I say small business, I'm talking about businesses that employ 20 people or less. I don't want a Walmart in Madison. I don't want a Lowe's in Madison. I don't think anybody in this room wants that. But to be specific about what's coming in, I think you just need to keep the door open and keep an open mind as businesses come in and do everything you can to bring them in and support them.
Jim Jewett.
I really like tourism because people come to the county, they spend money and then they leave. And that's the ideal industry that you can put in place. And we certainly have the assets in the county to enhance our tourism industry. Now, with regard to other development, particularly, I don't want to say industrial, but industrial or larger commercial businesses, yes, we have the 29 corridor, and that's what it's for. We just don't want to throw them anywhere and everywhere, and I don't think that's going to happen. But again, we are constrained. I like the idea of solar energy. I think that that's a possibility if it's done correctly. Again, more income, but not bringing any more people in. And I'm not anti-people, but people cost money. They require services, and that costs the county more money. And oftentimes, businesses will be brought into a county with tax incentives, and it actually costs the county more money than if they would have just let them go on by. So yes, we have to really push what we can do in the county and be really smart and aggressive about it.
Dustin Dawson.
I think we need businesses if we want to stop the tax hike for our real estate. Do we want to just let anybody in? No, not at all. I think we need to be picky and make sure it complements Madison, make sure it's something that accommodates the tourists while they're here. And then, like Jim said, they come, they go, they move on. We don't have to provide services for them and things like that. So, yes, but in the scheme of things, we also need to start preparing for that if that's the route we're going to go.
Clay Jackson.
I really don't understand the question. It's essentially, do we want business development? What does that mean? Do we want to cultivate and have the businesses that are here grow and be successful? Absolutely. I'm sitting here and I won't look at him. There is a successful roofer that we all know. I knew him when he had very, very few employees. He was very large at this point. That's business development. Do we also want to bring new businesses in? Absolutely. Everybody wants to bring up Tractor Supply, H&K, and then the auto crash place that went to Greene County. We ran them all. I don't know about the H&K or the auto place, but the one that I do know is Tractor Supply. We have to find businesses that fit Madison County. But also with that fit, with a lot of these small businesses, there are personal property rights that go to it. As long as it fits in that zone, there's not a whole lot the board can do.
Why are there so many vacant commercial properties in Madison? What would you do to incentivize more businesses to open in Madison? Jim Jewett.
Well, their primary reason that you see vacant buildings, and not just in Madison, but in any town or any city, is the fact that the businesses that traditionally go into those smaller spaces, like retail, they have a very difficult time making a business model that's profitable work. Consequently, we have vacant properties. Now, what can we do to fill them up? Well, I don't know specifically. I think it should be part of our plan. But I will say that I think that if we get a really good broadband service in here, you will see that some of those properties fill up. I mean, broadband does wonderful things for a county if you have implemented it correctly. I know from my experience in telecom in the state of Kentucky, a lot of the very poor coal mining towns and counties, they brought in broadband and the economic turnaround was phenomenal. So I think that would contribute to filling some of these vacancies.
Dustin Dawson.
The empty properties, the empty commercial properties. I think ultimately, I heard it said one time, it's great to have an economic development director or whatever, but the county administrator is really where the buck stops. So if somebody's wanting to come here, he should be communicating with them and talking to them, saying, hey, we want you here. We've got a building. He should be aware of that. It can't all rest on him, but as the board, we should make it known to him, hey, we want to fill up these properties, or I've talked to people and heard from the community that they want these properties filled up. This is what they're looking for. And then we can talk to the county administrator and begin to communicate back and forth about how we head that direction.
Clay Jackson.
I disagree with Mr. Dawson on one basis, that it's not the county administrator. It's you people, the citizens of Madison. The board kind of takes y'all's direction and hopefully executes it in the right way. We do have a committee that meets with small businesses and prospective businesses currently. That is the county administrator, the tourism director, Tracy Gardner, and then our zoning component, individual down there at Ligon Webb. They're the ones that are meeting with businesses, trying to find some spaces that will work for that business. There has been vacant buildings that businesses have wanted to go in. The one that I think is on the side street of Madison. That building is priced out of the market. That is a part of it. It's his right to put whatever he wants for it. No big deal. But that is a hurdle that we kind of go over all the time. There are far less vacant buildings today than there was 2 years ago.
Steve Grayson.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, there are a lot of factors involved in getting a small business in, and there's the financial aspect of it. So many small businesses fail within the first few years. That's nothing the county can do about it. The county certainly can promote them and do things to get them here. The other thing is, and I know that the one building that's taken is a large building on the south end of town, or south end of the county, near the Green Line. There's been numerous conversations with different folks that are looking at that. The last one I heard that was coming in there, the county had given a verbal approval of it, and I think that it got turned down. The last I heard, it was in litigation trying to get it overturned. So there are a lot of things going on. I think as we all agree, once we get broadband, obviously it'll make it easier to adjust these. I think you've got to have some, it may be that you just need to have small business hubs with a high-speed internet.
What is your position on joining in the context of people building, renovating, and maintaining homes in Madison County? Dustin Dawson.
Can you repeat the question?
What is your position on, I think it's joining in the context of people building, renovating, and maintaining homes in Madison County? So sorry. Okay, one more time to do it correctly. Thank you. What is your position in zoning in the context of people building, renovating, and maintaining homes in Madison County?
Well, I think as far as maintaining, you leave it complaint driven. So if somebody complains, that's when zoning steps in. If we run around and police everybody, it's like a, what is it when you live in a neighborhood and they come around and say your kid's bicycles in the yard, it's like, leave me alone, you know? So my point is, I don't think we need to police people. I don't think we should be running around checking out, you know, riding down the street looking for stuff. If a complaint comes in, then it's our responsibility to find out if it's legit, if it's a safety issue, or if it's just a disgruntled neighborhood that's fussing and fighting about something that's really civil and the county doesn't have anything to do with. As far as the zoning for building, I think that if you want to build a house, that's fine. If you want to build a business, we go through the proper chains and move on.
Clay Jackson.
All right. 80% of all Madison County is A1. It is very, very rare that we see the zoning change when it pertains to renovation of homes. It just doesn't come around. We have seen some mixed use. That's kind of good. That seems to be having R1 with B1 as a component. That seems to be the trend across the nation. Renovation houses and absentee owners, we all wish people were here all the time. These people require the least amount of services, and they pay their taxes. and they're not here a lot of the time. So it's a real win all the way around. I'll throw two more in there. Lace Factory just sold. Big business is going in there. One that people will not be able to retail, but a big business. The other one that has not been brought up on business is the Wyland property right next to Food Lion. That's all going to be developed with not the strip mall model, but it'll be a good thing all the way across.
Steve Grayson.
Zoning is a topic that I know a little bit about. My wife for 42 years was served as zoning administrator for 44 and a half years. Zoning is a tough subject. Nobody likes for anyone to tell them what they can or cannot do with their property. But don't shoot the zoning administrator. He or she's just a messenger. Where it starts is in the zoning ordinance. We have a very strong planning commission right now, probably one of the strongest ones we've had in a long time. And they're constantly looking at and reviewing the policies and procedures, and are all constantly making new recommendations to the board for changes in that document in order to work hand in hand with the current trends as well as the comprehensive plan. So zoning is tough, but we need zoning, but we need to have the right type of zoning.
Jim Jewett.
I'm still not clear on that question, but here's a shot I'm going to give it. With regard to individual homeowners, I'm a big believer in property rights. As long as you stay within the code and within the current zoning, you should be able to do what you want to do. My neighbors can do what they want to do. Now, when it starts to materially affect me, now it starts to become some of my business, and that's where zoning comes in, to protect the community and also to protect the individual property owner. And I think by and large that the county has done a good job in zoning. We have not become another Culpeper or Greene County, but you know, as Mr. Grayson said, I mean, you're constantly looking, you constantly have to evaluate your zoning and keep it in conjunction with what we want as a county and also to promote economic growth.
What nonprofit organization in Madison County do you support, not only with money, but with time? Clay Jackson.
Little do you all know, I'm doing this only for the money. I'm with you. I don't know, the first one that comes to mind is PRA. Parks and Rec does a great thing. We have liaisons from the Board of Supervisors on basically everything that goes on in Madison County. We work with, in PRA we do volunteer, I do personal volunteer work and lots of stuff. Literacy Council, we found them a home when their other one wasn't sufficient. There are tons of I'm drawing a blank, I apologize. There are tons of nonprofits in Madison County. A lady that thankfully is not associated with one anymore, she said that Madison's greatest strength is their volunteerism. No other community has that. Something I always think is kind of a shining light from that.
Steve Grayson.
As I understood the question is, what organizations am I involved in?
What nonprofit organization in Madison County do you support, not only with money, but with time?
Well, that's an easy one. Most everybody here knows that since I was 19 years old, 48 years ago, I've been a member of the Madison County Rescue Squad. Currently serve as its president. I've given tens and tens of thousands of hours, and I've sacrificed my family when my daughter was younger and all for it. It's a part of me. The recent actions that I won't get into, that everybody knows about, I don't blame the board. It was like a part of my heart that went away. I'm very, very passionate about that. I'm also involved with the Chamber of Commerce, as I said earlier. I've served as president numerous terms. I'm currently served as vice president. I've been involved in that agency for close to 20 years. I'm involved in my church, where I'm a deacon. I've spent most of my adult life serving in some capacity in Madison County.
Jim Jewett.
This is going to get me in trouble. But most of the charity work and nonprofit work that I do happens to be in Culpeper County. And that's simply because I live on the edge, the border, and I attend church there. And it's not against Madison, but my wife and I do quite a bit of charity work in that county. What we have been active in Madison in the past, and this has just been a wonderful experience, we have contributed money and have done fundraisers for the Madison Literacy Council. And we've actually produced several mystery dinners for them. Hopefully COVID will go away someday so we can do some more of that. But there are really a lot of good nonprofits, I think, in Mesa and the great work that they do. And that's something that I agree. It's one of the shining examples of how Madisonians selflessly give their time and money to their fellow citizens without any expectation of return.
Dustin Dawson.
Most of mine would be the church. Noble is where we go to church, and that's where we spend a lot of our time. I've been with them. They said, "Hey, we're going to stack wood for an elderly gentleman today," or however it is. They just they find a need and they go after it. So my volunteer time would go there.
What should happen to Kriglersville School? Steve Grayson.
Well, what I think should have been done, quite honestly, I think the county made a huge mistake many years ago. They had an offer of $200,000 that they turned down, which in retrospect probably wasn't a very good decision. Quite honestly, I mean, there was an individual recently that wanted to purchase it contingent upon the county rezoning everything to match that, and I'm against specific matching. Quite honestly, in my opinion, if someone wants it and can use it, we give it to them. At least if we don't get but $500 a month, $500 a year of taxes is more than we're getting now. Now it's a liability to us.
Jim Jewett.
I agree with Mr. Grayson. You know, this is an example of trying to hold out for more money, and then you end up stuck with an asset, and they're like a bad relative, you can't get rid of them. And I don't have any bad relatives. Well, I do, but anyway. The issue is now we've got a property that basically, I agree, if you could give it away, that's what we need to do, because the longer you keep it, the less valuable it becomes, and the more of a liability and expense it becomes for the county. Cut your losses and move on.
Dustin Dawson.
I agree with both of them. I mean, if it's not doing anything but costing us money, let's get rid of it. Give it away, find somebody that can use it, and just get rid of it.
Clay Jackson.
Oh yeah, anybody that wants it, come on. Run to the front, the dilapidated school. We've tried to give it away to about everybody. We've had a couple different businesses, actual real businesses, come to us. We've talked about giving it away for such a low amount of money. It is a giveaway. The big problem is having the property come back to us if we give it to the wrong person, and it becoming more of a liability, and a liability for the community of Kriglersville, and then a liability for Madison County. And that's a real problem. I had one guy come to me, and he frankly said the Board of Supervisors are a bunch of idiots. I'm talking to him. And he says, county administrator is going to give me the building. I said, well, you got to go down this road. He said he was going to go in, renovate the building, and he was going to do the work with a sledgehammer. Had no business plan, nothing. That's a liability. That's a poor direction to go. We need something that would come to Madison. The thing that we've looked at is incubators, these business, the people that have been more real about buying it. We're taking offers. Please bring them to us.
If some issue comes to the Board of Supervisors with which you are unfamiliar, what steps would you take to find out about it? Jim Jewett.
That's the best one yet. I guess it depends on what the issue is. I may not want to find out any more about it. But in that case, obviously, if it's a decision, it would have to be delayed. I wouldn't rush into supporting anything or declining anything. If I didn't understand it, my recommendation would be that we table it, we postpone it, and then I would do everything possible to research that particular proposal and all the aspects related to it.
Dustin Dawson.
I agree, we table it. You don't make any hasty decisions. And then you communicate, you talk to, if you need to, you talk to other communities and see if they've been through this. Sometimes, I'll use this example. I would go to my dad sometimes and I'd say, have you ever seen this electrical issue? And he's like, oh yeah, one time. And he's been in the trade for 55 years. So to my point, you go to another community that you know they've had a similar issue or a similar problem or a similar situation, and you just ask. And they give you the good, bad, and indifferent. Like, don't do this, this ended up costing us. Don't do that. And then you also talk to the citizens. And I know some things, are top secret, maybe, I don't know. But to my point, you talk to the citizens and you find out what they want in the process.
Clay Jackson.
It's exceedingly rare for the board to take action on anything the night that it is proposed. Most decisions take months to make, and in some cases years. Planning Commission, they go through 2 weeks, I guess, between the workshop and the actual hearing. That's the shortest period. The thing you do is you do research. Google is a great thing. It's simple. We have a great staff here in Madison. We tap into those. We check with community members. You make phone calls. You go visit the site. You try to talk to as many people as possible to have some relevant information on it, trying to gain a kind of wholesome perspective on the situation. You always try to learn from hindsight, but in the grand scheme of things, you just you do the work that is warranted for that type of decision.
Steve Grayson.
As a member of the Board of Supervisors, I think you have, at a minimum, you have the responsibility and the obligation to research and study every item that comes before that group before you make a decision. I see the packets that come out. Sometimes it's 150, 175 pages of attachments that come with it. You've got to spend the time, you've got to study it, and like these other gentlemen said, if you don't have enough data on it, then do not make a hasty decision. Table it until you do get the proper information you need, and then make the decision, is it best for Madison County?
What would you be willing to have town halls would you be willing to have town halls after you are elected? Why or why not? Dustin Dawson.
Absolutely. I think if you lose touch with the citizens in the community and hearing what they want, the direction you want to go, I know there's hearings and things like that. Not everybody's going to come out to that, but somebody might come to a town hall, or somebody of a friend might come to a town hall and talk to you and tell you, hey, this bothered me, or I like this, or however, which Clay would probably tell me that they probably don't mention that they like much most of the time. To the point, I think yes, you gotta continue to hear from the community at all times.
Clay Jackson.
Absolutely. Be glad to hold town halls. We did about 3-4 years ago with Bill Campbell. The problem is people stop showing up. As I look around this crowd here, it's kind of interesting. I know a lot of you, and it's because y'all come to our meetings. The thing we've done with our meetings for a long time now, if you have something to contribute, we'll listen to you, we'll respond back to you. It's not a one-sided thing. The policy for the Board of Supervisors should be 3 minutes, make your response, we don't respond. We've never followed that. It's just the way it needs to be. We work for the people. You want to have town halls? Let's have them. Anything you all want to do. That's a simple one.
Steve Grayson.
I agree that town halls can be effective. As it's been mentioned, historically, they're not very well attended. I think a better avenue and more efficient, you shouldn't have to wait every 30 days, every 90 days, every 120 days if you have an issue with me, or if you have a suggestion to me. I'll make sure that all my phone numbers are readily available to you. My email will be readily available. You reach out to me, you contact me the day that the idea pops in your head. You don't have to wait until we schedule a town hall. I think that's the more efficient way, is to have an open communications with the member and the public.
Jim Jewett.
Yeah, town halls are great. And, you know, I'm thinking about, and what Mr. Grayson said I agree with, I think you need to be more available to citizens, even though it's not always the most pleasant interaction. But I think about experiences that I've had in the past, and I know that some of the issues that came up down my way years ago, like the scenic byway and a few other things, when Dave Jones was supervisor, one of the things that he strived to do, and I really like this, is that he tried to get messages to neighbors far enough ahead of time so that they could get involved in some of these major decisions, like Cresser rate. That's how you pronounce that, right? Okay. And some other issues, because oftentimes what happens, lack of communication, and then all of a sudden somebody's upset, and sometimes it's their own fault for not responding to correspondence or not being more involved or attuned to what's going on. But it's better to head off some of these problems by building consensus early. And that's just town halls are good, but I think we also have to have better communication with our constituents.
This is the last question, and it's number 13. I thought Hoover Ridge was to be a park for everyone. However, Hoover Ridge is a sports complex for the county's youth. What steps would you take to ensure that there are things for older citizens, such as walking paths? The existing paths there are not safe for the elderly. Clay Jackson.
Well, surprisingly, I have trouble walking. It is for everybody. I see a lot of people out there walking. It's always kind of surprising. Because I'm not out there walking. I go out there and I have PRA meetings, see sports teams, and see a bunch of kids out there, which is great to see. But I do see people walking. If there are specific things that go with safety on walking the trails that are over where they do the haunted woods, the camp, something over there, and then walking around some of the fields. I mean, that's, I don't know. It seems, if there's something specific, get in touch with us. We'll take it up. Safety is key, and it is a park for everybody. I think it's something in Madison that we can be proud of. It's a beautiful place. What it is.
Steve Grayson.
I agree. Hoover Ridge is probably one of the most controversial things that Madison ever purchased when they made the purchase initially. but it's turned out to be one of the best purchases that they ever made. Having had the opportunity of having grandkids and my daughter that's played through youth sports, to go up there on any given day or weekend and see 400 or 500 people out there, to see all the activities they've done, they're doing a great job out there. I mean, they've added so many new features. They've got everything from driving range to they're having movies to RC, remote control car track. And if you talk to those folks, there's a lot planned up there. There's a lot planned. But unfortunately, it takes money. But, I mean, again, if there's concerns, if there are ideas, let us know, and we'll be glad to reach out to them. But that's a great facility.
Jim Joy.
Well, Hoover Ridge is a great facility, and we need to leverage it and maximize it for our citizens' civic and recreational opportunities. I also think it's an important component of our tourism industry. We hold events there, concerts, etc., etc. And agreeing with Mr. Jackson, I think that if people have specific desires for that property or specific concerns, they need to formally petition the Board of Supervisors, maybe through Parks and Rec, maybe directly, for those changes, and then the board could consider them. But it's hard to make changes to things that people aren't happy about if they don't tell you about it. So I agree, but Hoover Ridge is great. I think it's one of the best things we ever spent money on in this town.
Dustin Dawson.
It is a nice park and it's beautiful. But I think about my mother who doesn't walk well, and especially on gravel or grass. And I know asphalt costs money. It does, just like Mr. Grayson said. But maybe don't pave the parking lot right away, but maybe some trails. And you look at other communities, and I know I go to other communities and I say look at other communities, but some communities are knocking it out of the park in this area. And so is that going to be the perfect answer? No. But they may have some advice for us that would save us money. And so, yes, get involved. Let your Board of Supervisors know. Let the Parks and Rec know. And then from there, we get a plan together and we start moving forward.
We're ready now for the closing statements. We'll start with Jim Jewett.
Okay, I'm going to try to be as brief as I can in 2 minutes. One of the things that concerns me about public spending, and this is just human nature, when we get into large amounts of money in large organizations, we lose the sense of value of what that money really is. It becomes a number on a piece of paper. When we're spending money in the county, $1,300, for example, that equates to one average homeowner sitting down and writing out that 6-month check, every 6-month check in property tax, sitting at their kitchen table. And you know what? They might be worried, do they have enough money to cover that? Will they have to not pay another bill? Will they not be able to do things for their family that they wanted to do? I've sat at that kitchen table, folks, and I would hope as a supervisor I would never lose fact that tax money is real money from real people, and they sacrifice to pay that. The other issue I'm going to bring up is, and this is just a general, I guess, attitude, growing up in Madison County, particularly the years that I ran dairy farm, I learned how to work, I learned responsibility, I learned that the buck stops with me, I learned that I had to make things happen, whether I was sick, whether I was, it was the weekend, it was the holiday, whether I was discouraged. I know for years trying to work through to a goal and just not being able to see the light at the end of the tunnel, but pushing through until I completed my goals. And I've taken that experience with me to every other one of my life endeavors, and I will tell you that it has served me very well. And I would bring that attitude and that experience to my work on the Board of Supervisors. So, in conclusion, thank you, and I would humbly ask you for your vote.
Steve Grayson.
Again, thank you, each of you, for coming out tonight, taking your time to come here, and ask the questions. Hopefully you you got the answers that you was hoping or was at least expecting. Again, I think that you can tell from my questions, my comments, I'm very passionate about Madison County. Madison County is home and will always be home. I'm not going to stand here or sit here and I'm not going to promise you that I'm going to do this and I'm going to do this. I'm only going to make you two promises. Promise number one is that every item that comes before me as a board member, I'm going to research it. I'm going to know all the answers. And my vote's going to be what's best for Madison County and not what's best for a selected group. The other thing I'm going to promise you is that every time I vote to spend money, I'm going to tell you that, I'm going to say that, I'm going to think about that as taxpayer money. Taxpayer money, like Jim says and others says, comes hard. It's tough writing that check. So you've got to be a good steward of the money of the county, and I promise to do that. Again, I would appreciate your vote on November 2nd.
Clay Jackson.
Government is the ultimate service industry. We are here to serve y'all. If you are hearing about government all the time, chances are things are going wrong. I hope that during my term on the board, and we've made hard decisions, trivial decisions, all through the gamut. It's just not a good thing when the government is in the spotlight. It needs to go to the people. I'm not for growing government. I do think that costs are going up, and it is a problem for Madison. We can't tax you all anymore. It's not appropriate. I hope during my time on the board, it's a great honor to me. I hope I can serve once again. I hope I bring a little bit of common sense and some farmer practicality to the board. I would appreciate your vote on election day. Thank you all for coming.
Dustin Dawson.
Let me start off by saying I'm not a public speaker, and I'd rather take a cold shower than sit up here. I told you I'd say it. But with that being said, I am simply just a common sense guy. I've worked with my hands most of my life. I'm back to working with my hands because I found out I missed it. And here's the key about working with your hands, just like Jim was talking about with the farm, but I'll use an electrical term. If there's a problem electrically in this room, you go where you think it might be, but you may take every little thing apart before you finally find it. And I'll be that patient to serve you. And I'll pick up the phone. If you need something, I'll answer emails. I really just want the opportunity to serve. Madison's where I want to be. I moved here. I want to be here. My family's here. My boys. I hope they can grow up, and I hope they want to come back here and stay here. I would appreciate your vote on November 2nd. That's about it.
We'll have the school board start at 8:15, yes, 8:15, so that's about 10 minutes.